Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Feygin Live. Time is 2 minutes past 9 p.m. Kiev and Moscow. We are changing the time we go live, so today it is 9 p.m. again. And it is Friday, the 27th of May, day 93 of this Putin's war with Ukraine. Glad to have Olexiy Arestovych here in the studio. Likewise, hello everybody. We have over 150,000 people watching us live. As usual, I call upon you to post links to our cast in your social media. Share it with friends. It is a good time. After our cast, you can even have your evening aperitif. So please share the links and subscribe to both channels. To Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and if you're listening to that in English, to Privateer Station. We are committed to having all of these casts here live. Alright, Olexiy, tell us more about what happened during the last 24 hours. It is an interesting day from different points of view, starting from what's going on in the front. Today is the aviation day. Ka-55, Mi-8, Su-35, probably one more Ka-52. And it means that our enemy is starting to use aviation actively, and it also means that we've been waiting for them and got them. Su-35 is a really hard target to get, and it fell pretty bravely under interesting circumstance. I'll tell you more. From Donetsk region, there was information that we covered the forward operation base, over 20 top Russian officers. Their building, or whatever they were hosted in, is destroyed completely. Let's go over the front line. From the north of Kharkov, Russian troops are trying to keep our forces engaged and distract them from advancing to the east. Going down south to Izum, they tried to advance from Izum towards Slavyansk, Bogorodichne. Didn't really work out for them, so they pulled back. Liman, according to some data, we are holding, if not Liman itself, but in the immediate vicinity. And it's going pretty rough. There's rough fighting there, very close quarter or close artillery engagements and infantry. Near Lysychansk, they tried to attack as well. Didn't quite work out. I cannot name the exact towns. So, to the south west of Lysychansk, there was another attempt to take our stronghold there and get to the road. Bakhmut-Lysychansk didn't work out for them. And we also were rather successful in counterattacks and spoiled some of their equipment and life force. In the north, they did not have any success, north near Avdiivka. In Zaporozhye, we shot down a helicopter, Mi-8. They're probably looking to drop tactical airborne troops and failed to do that. We hit them. Those 3 battalion tactical groups we talked about, they're not fighting yet. In Kherson, yeah, we're showing the map now. So, on the right side of Dnieper towards Kryvyi Rog. You cannot see that. We need a different map on this one. It is a little bit to the east from Great Alexandrovka. Let's find it. So there we nearly announced a counterattack that is supposed to cut their group in halves. I would not give that status to our forces, but at least I would say it's a small counterattack tactical effect. But it was actually bigger. And yeah, we got... It's a pretty big map. It's hard to zoom in here. Bring it back. That's a little too far. Davidov crossing. So, the rightmost, uppermost pig, a little bit south of it. They were afraid of our motion there because it looked like... Oh, you can see Velika Alexandrovka. It's the last settlement on the red territory, on the top right. So they got afraid, they got scared. That is a significant logistics hub for them. And it also looked like we tried to cut their forces in two halves. Also, our jet intercepted Su-35 and destroyed it when it tried to attack our storm fighters. So when do these planes work? They work when they support the advancement of troops. So we'll see. If there'll be something interesting and continuous episode there, we'll talk about it more tomorrow. But it's a very interesting story with more perspectives. So how can you cut this? Does it mean that Kherson will be halved all the way down to the sea? No, it means that we can cut the northern group from Kherson group and go from our side to Novaya Kakhovka. You can see it on the right lower part of this map, and separate this group. I don't think it's a serious advancement there, because I don't think we are ready for it, but it's interesting that our aviation was trying to support our infantry, and we also intercepted Russian interceptor that tried to shoot down our planes, even though if it was a small fragment, blip on the military fighting, it actually is a good piece of news. So in several days, it's also a good hit of that forward operation base. We haven't had it for a while, and planes and helicopters, 4 of them going down. That's a productive day. So going back to the situation near Severodonetsk and that corridor from Popasna to Lysychansk and the road to Bakhmut. What is the probability in that area of Russians' advance? Did it grow? Did it decrease? It's a mixed bag of things there. On one hand, they moved closer to the road, so now it's more dangerous to drive it. They can reach any part of it with artillery. On the other hand, all their attempts to push through our strongholds, they failed. So they got a little bit, but in general, on the tactical and the operative tactical level, all of their decisions or attempts were sabotaged. They failed to achieve any. I also heard today Gaidai, the head of civil administration in Lugansk region, Gaidai, that Ukrainian command may actually consider withdrawing their troops from Severodonetsk area in order to avoid them getting trapped Can that happen? Well, it's up to Ukrainian command. Such decisions, they need to figure, that's their decision. So another piece of news that I saw, that some Russian troops actually got into Severodonetsk, and they're holding the hotel Mir, Peace, and auto transport station. So I heard that we're also trying to kick them out, but I have not heard confirmation that it happened. So it looks like the battles are really closing onto the city, and it may convert into deep, detailed fighting. Although that also can mean that Russian troops, whatever they stored, whatever they accumulated by that time, they might lose them in that city. So Popasna is a much smaller settlement, and they lost 5-6 battalion tactical groups. They're down to 20% of their personnel left. So here, that place is much bigger, so they won't have an easy walk through it, and they very likely will lose way more. It will be difficult for both sides. Even if we can imagine that they capture the city, they will suffer so much attrition that it will be a difficult blow for them to handle. And also what we're discussing here, it basically is a result of what they announced a month and a half ago, super mega offensive of all peoples that they heralded on the Donbass area. And that's what they're doing with a total advantage of artillery and air support. What if they don't have the total advantage? The end of war, they'll start withdrawing. Don't speak about them not having total control, because there are a lot of trolls watching us. They'll probably be spitting on their screens. 200,000 watching us live. Many of them left their likes. Please, again, leave a like to this cast. This is important. You are supporting to disseminate this information. Every like stands for 10 additional views of this video to other people. So, another question. If you take a bird's eye view of the front, can you make a judgment that Moscow plans in that area, in Lugansk area, they are somewhat limited by getting to the border? Or is there still a danger to Kharkiv or to Kherson? Some large-scale movement to the west? On Kherson, the comparative weight of military is similar, so they cannot really advance there. And on Gulyai-Polya, it's not working for them either. Avdiivka is not a success for them. Fifth day in a row attempts to attack without any motion forward. So it appears that only Lugansk is working out for them. Even that is not too successful. They breached the city, they entered the city a little bit, but they can't even cut the road. So it's only with the cost of ongoing attacks that they actually, at that cost, they actually try to advance a little, but the outcome is minuscule. And even on Liman, they had a good success, but even that is slowing down now. So it appears they're slowing down for whatever reason. Maybe they'll throw more reserves, but right now they're not too active. So right now perspectives are still foggy. And I have to remind that all that is being achieved by Russian side at a cost of huge losses and huge advantages in artillery and air force. So the moment we can break that situation. Our infantry can kick their ass. Our infantry is way more effective than theirs. So only thing we need to is break that equipment balance, take away their advantage. So follow that story. Ruslan Leviev, another intelligence team analyzing this war. He did publish another material from Russia that on 11th of May they issued another order, and they ordered to get more battalion tactical groups from all the regions of Russia, which are supposed to be training for about a month and then go back into Ukraine to replace the killed soldiers of Russian Federation. So when they say, to give you some perspective, when they order each military district to bring a battalion, a reserve battalion, that roughly would translate if we had a company of 200 people and our glorious leadership told us to prepare 3 people to go and fight. So that's the proportion. That tells that they're not too successful. I don't expect they can be successful in conscription. So right now they have already about 5,000 people. Several thousand are already dead when they brought previous reserves in, and a bunch of them are demoralized and trying to not advance. This is the destiny of these reserves that are being quickly assembled and thrown here in the grinder. Because the fairy tales they're being told in Russia and the real life situation are very, very different. This is a public service announcement that for those people who want to earn some money in Russia, probably, I would say I'd call it funeral money. All right, let's go to the international frame, our story about reactive systems. The moment we started complaining about it, things seem to be moving, and we hear that there'll be another package discussed next week. Reactive artillery systems are definitely discussed as a part of that. Johnson from Britain mentioned that the West has to support Ukraine at all costs, and he's also stated that they're going to commit in supporting multi-rocket launch systems. So he, being the biographer of Churchill, he did flourish his statement that you cannot make a truce with a big crocodile. So, right now, I do have, if you understand, there's a lot of activity happening. I have requests from 4 first-tier media channels to give interview to them. So I'll be explaining them what's going on and hopefully continue pushing for what we need. So let's, before we go to Belarus matter, on the 15th, 16th of June, there'll be another meeting in Brussels, and before that there'll be a Ramstein meeting. So one can be grumpy about the speed the West is reacting with, but you still cannot really be upset at them for the goals and reasons. So they did recommit to the goal recently in Europe that our goal is to make sure that Russian regime must have no capability to bully the neighbors militarily. Same thing with military, that with America, that we are in the discussions of the actual articles. And we can be upset with the tempo, with the pace, but even at this point, Ukrainian military, Ukrainian fighters are providing us cover while these talks are happening. They're stopping Russians from taking Lysychansk, Severodonetsk. Our Marines and Special Forces and Infantry are holding that at the cost of their lives and their bodies. And also, when they have at places, they overwhelm us 10-15 to 1. And when they have hundreds of shells for our 10 shells in the artillery, we still manage to hold it. So in the middle of June, there'll be a complex voting amidst the countries supporting Ukraine, and that's when we're hoping to see the list of what and the dates of when. I will not change my prediction, probably second half of July, looking at these delays, but the main news is that the support is ongoing and likely will continue to flow to continue breaking Russian intentions. And Russia announced recently that Kherson is going to Russian phone lines, and they'll have a mini referendum back in USSR or back in Russian Empire, whatever they call it. So to address that, we will likely regroup and get more weapons on the front and kick you out of our lands. Now, Belarus, the head of the country, Alexander Lukashenko, announced that Belarus needs to create territorial defense. And he promised to learn how small mobile groups in Ukraine managed to stop big Russian detachments. He says we have people and weapons. And now, attention, the main question. Whom against is he gathering that force? Personally, I think he's just posing. Do you think he's getting some gut to fight against Russia? Yeah, I think he probably is doing it with a back thought about Russia. Because, first of all, Ukraine is not going to attack Belarus under no circumstance. And then another question is which force, which power in Belarus can make him give weapons to the people whom he hammered with batons and police not but 2 years ago. What makes him give them weapons? What threat? I think that these people whom will get weapons, if they will turn them against Lukashenko and pummel him with these batons or shove them where. Well, no, there is intrigue here, Mark. We actually have information. They're not too popular, but if you read through, you can see that Belarus has really intensified contacts with the West. We did talk about some of their politics, and it seems like the general traffic increased. And the main appeal from Belarus is, would you help us to not fall under a big, scary regime to the east of us? And we don't want to be part of that war. We'll try to stay away from it militarily, so maybe you can give us some guarantees and help us stay away from everything. So on this background of this increasing political traffic with Europe, he is forming that territorial defense. I already like it. If he pushes any of these defense units onto Russian border, he would be forgiven all of his bullying and dictatorship, I think. But I think he's really wiggling here. That means that even though Russia said or promised that Belarus may attack Ukraine, his wiggling means that reality of that invasion is much lower. Well, yeah, he didn't move even when Russian troops are there, and now when they're almost gone, he's much less likely to do that. Yeah, Medusa in Russian published again today that they're dreaming by autumn to have Kiev and maybe Odessa. And I'm advising to those Kremlin dreamers to look at the behavior of Alexander Grigorievich in Belarus, and you may find yourself in a very difficult situation when you'll find yourself not just under Ukrainian artillery, but also with the territorial defense from Belarus. And giving Bucha, there are not likely going to be many Russians who will have a chance to surrender. And frankly, nobody expects Belarus army to cross the border. It'll be funny if Russians will discover that Belarus troops will be surrounding them if they continue occupying parts of their country as well. So why not Lukashenko go to Ukraine, meet Zelensky, hug him, and set a discussion? Well, he'll be assassinated by Russia immediately. But, he needs to understand, and I hope he understands, that the moment the active phase in Ukraine is gone, they'll start looking at Lukashenko. And he has two things to do. First of all, take off that criminal investigation that you started, probably by mistake, against my person. And then second, establish better connections with Ukraine and start to work in alliance instead of joining Russian side. All right. What I want to say, that was half the sensation. Now the real sensation. Attention, tadam. Now, there was a meeting of Ukrainian Orthodox Church that used to be under Moscow Patriarchy. They condemned the behavior and statements of Russian Church and put their intention that they want to get out of Moscow Patriarchy, and they also turned to Ukrainian Church with a request to join their forces together. So, another interesting side of that is that 2/3 of Russian church, of the financial income and assets, is in Ukraine. So with that move by Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Russian Orthodox Church is losing about 2/3 of their resources. So this is a tectonic change in that field. Huge event with a cherry of beautifully falling Su-35 in Kherson region. What can I say here? Congratulations to Russian Church. I hope they send Kirill, they condemn him with anathema. Well, we're doing the daily Chronicles here, so I think some of the priests may be watching us and may get some ideas from our show. Now, imagine Kirill is being called, Russian Patriarch is called to Kremlin and addressed as Comrade General Lieutenant. Yeah, I think he's about that rank. Yep. So what happened? And yeah, they also will be asking him a second question. What about the money? Here you promised us that you will hold the money. I'm joyfully expecting the hassle that's going to happen in Kremlin over that. Now, another interesting thing, we've seen some printouts that were given to Russian army for conversing with local citizens. So one of the answers there was that when locals are asking you, are you Russians or Ukrainians, you should answer, we are Orthodox. And this is one of the attempts to leave the narrative, because Russians, the authors of that, saying that Russians in Ukraine is a discredited concept, so you have to say we're Orthodox Christians. And now you can also not really be an Orthodox Christian unless you are Ukrainian or not part of Moscow Patriarchy. So that event is a meta-historic level event, which hits one of the main carrying structures of Russian ideology at this moment, that Russian Orthodoxy is fighting the West, that holds gay parades and all that, and destroys one of the main trends that Putin was bringing in his message and with his person at the cusp of this war. So we came here to save also Orthodoxy from perverted Europe, and now Orthodox Church turns around and shows them, go F yourself. And yeah, one of their supporting structures offers them to hang themselves on that structure. So Moscow Orthodox Church is in big trouble. It is closing an issue from, I think, 1675, the second half of 17th century, when they took the head of the Orthodox Church in Kiev and Moscow and the whole Russian Ukraine region and pulled him to Moscow. So now that power is going back to Kiev. Now they're not only kicked from under their feet the material base, but also the ideological structure. So now they cannot say they're fighting for orthodoxy here, because Orthodoxy in Ukraine showed them a big middle finger, saying we would not go on the same road with you. And you can take your Patriarch Kirill and follow him, you know where, along with the Russian ship. I think this was coming because the choice was either to stay under the foot of Moscow Patriarchy, which is a really treacherous position, because in the condition of war you cannot really talk to your people. How can you explain what's happening? And you're still supporting Moscow. So you also have to mention an interesting thing here. Ukrainian guy Anufri, I think he was born in western Ukraine. So
Кирилл мне лично говорил, что когда в Сибири кто-то целует в 2005 году, когда в Сибири кто-то целует руку,
he told me
священнику, он обычно целует руку
in person that usually about 2/3 of priests in Russia are from the western Ukraine. So we were laughing, but he smiled and said it was right after the conflicts in Russia. He said, you know, those Russians kissing the hand of their priests, very likely kissing the hand of somebody from the western Ukraine. So essentially that Bandera-style counterpart or their enemy. So it is interesting to say that these people had enough strength to be were fearless enough to denounce Russian Church when the situation is not clear. They stated that earlier. That was already a big step, and now they're already turning to the Ukrainian Church and turning to them to trying to join their efforts and become one body, or at least get more integrated. That is a huge step for that denomination. So it is an interesting day. Look, we discussed a lot of topics. We have 360,000 people watching us live. And I need to remember one guy I call Pots, Yanukovych, your ex president or whatever he was, with that golden baton. Yeah, did he really? I saw in the news that he dropped his wife and he's living with his cook. So the husband of a cook had issued official statement, and basically it was full of threats and telling Ukrainians to surrender. Can you explain me why they keep bringing him up? Why they keep propping him up? He kind of is already retired. He's already having affairs with the cook, but then for some reason they bring him out, dust him off, and shake him in the general direction of Ukraine. I don't understand why are they doing it. I think today they announced Tibinsky, the international, one of the judges, big figures in the court system in Ukraine, into Interpol. So according to some data that was leaked to the press, the story is about that judge who was supposed to announce Yanukovych to be a reinstated president when they would have brought him if they have taken Kiev. It's hard to imagine less appealing figure because he was not in good relations with Donbass. Nobody wanted or liked him in Kiev. He was a despised figure, but I think the main ideological narrative here is that Russia is trying, or saying they're trying to reinstate the government of Ukraine that was interrupted by that military coup in 2014, our Maidan revolution, and they're trying to bring that person back in power. It's basically a mirror. They have not invented anything new. They're trying to do the referendum, and then they're breaking Yanukovych and trying to reinstate him over the turnover that we had. So that kind of is a refrain back to 93, the conflict in Russia between parliament and president, where unfortunately for Russia their president won. Now they also were peddling those rumors about biological weapons in Ukraine. So again, let's put some American traces here and say we're fighting against America. Then they're dropping the Syrian leaflets here, just a rough translation of what they were throwing in Syria. They're not creative. But the day-to-day was interesting. So a lot of heavy load went off the shoulders, and it might indicate an interesting break in the flow of events. We'll see what the West is going to be doing regarding the story of weapons supply. We're very curious to see what the second package will be, what we'll have on the battlefield, and we'll have more things to discuss. So we've been live almost 38 minutes. It's Friday also. Let's give people some time to celebrate. Make an announcement. We'll need to have a break on Sunday. We'll have a show tomorrow, but on Sunday we'll skip it. So on the sixth package of sanctions, it appears that Italian initiative did not go through. Zelensky said several times that he's not a fan. And he did mention that there is still a danger that Moscow might use tactical nuke. But he had said at least 10 times no, 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 and let me tell you again, no. So in this context, how do you project the behavior of those who try to peddle this plan? Do you think they'll try to approach him from a different direction, keeping in mind that food blackmail, difficulties with grain and possibly bread in Africa? So they'll probably keep trying. It depends upon how will European Union vote on the sixth set of sanctions. Maybe they'll pick, and we heard that they might pick the role where they would say, okay, Hungary is not part of this package, but everybody else is not using Russian oil. And maybe they will lose more money and not be able to fuel the war much. Speaking of fueling the war, we've seen T-55. That's a really old one. This is right after the war. the Second World War. So very soon you'll see horse buggies. No, we'll have to see T-34 first, and then probably, horse carriages with machine guns, and those four-wing planes. So the devil is not as dangerous, as scary as people paint him sometimes. If we do get the promised supplies and armor, the situation will be changed, and that's where it goes so far. Alright, let's hope. We've been 40 minutes live, 372,000 people watching us live. It's Friday, a little bit off time. Tomorrow we have a live cast at 9 Kiev. Please share this show with your friends, invite them to watch, especially if they are in Russia. Again, if they're in America as well, share the privateer station. Very important to push that awareness, and it does depend upon us, upon our pressure on the congressmen and senators to continue supporting that anti-Putin effort. So please subscribe, leave your likes. We're always glad to have you here. And subscribe to Mark and Olexiy channels. See you tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. Goodbye.